Do only Jehovah's Witnesses have any hope of surviving the end of the system?
Absolutely, yeah. We all have that hope.
No,
because in Revelation it says that they would come out of the Great Tribulation.
Uh-huh.
So they have to be in it to come out of it.
Right. So I'm just asking. Only Jehovah's Witnesses will survive Armageddon.
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
Huh?
Wow. That's not very many people out of the whole world, huh?
Well, no. When remember what Jesus said about the two roads? He said that the road to destruction would be broad and spacious, and the majority would be on it. But the road to life, he said, very few would be on that, and we have to exert ourselves vigorously to get in through that narrow gate.
Oh, was there nobody on it then? Until the late 1800s.
Pardon me now?
Was there nobody that would make it on that road? I mean, until the late 1800s then?
1800? Oh my! No, there'd be far more than that.
Well, there wasn't any Jehovah's Witnesses before that.
Well, no, there's Jehovah's Witnesses. There's over 8 million.
No. I mean, before the late 1800s. What was there any before that?
I'm not sure what you mean by 1800.
Well, that's when the Jehovah's Witnesses started.
Oh, in the 1800s.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I thought you meant
with Russell.
Okay.
Russell. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
well, the modern day organization. Yeah, that was back in the 1800s. Of course, Jehovah's always had his witnesses on the earth, from Abel clear on up to this very day, but they just weren't always called Jehovah's Witnesses necessarily. But in Isaiah chapter 43 and verse 12, it spoke of the Israelites being his witnesses. And so that's why in 1931, Jehovah's Witnesses adopted that name. Before that, they were just known as International Bible Students. But in 1931, they adopted the name of Jehovah's Witnesses because that's what we do. It's not just a title. It's actually a description of our activity. And so we witness for Jehovah and, of course, Jesus, because that's what Jesus did. And so we try to imitate him, following his footsteps.
Okay, well, great. I mean, so many witnesses won't say it so outright as you are, so that we could get a clear answer there. A lot of them don't want to say that, but, thanks for your straightforwardness.
Well, you're sure welcome. I'd be happy to talk to you anytime.
Oh, okay. Hold on one second. Let me shut the door. Okay, so that's a good question. And have you been on jw.org? Is that kind of where you've looked up some information?
Yeah, we have a couple of quotes from the literature, but there's confusion because individual witnesses give a different answer than what's kind of in the literature, so I just wanted to get your opinion on that.
Yeah, and that's probably the best thing I would like to do is, I can do it right now. I have an answer in my head, but I would like to give you something a little more substantial than that.
Sure.
Because there's a couple things, and I'm going on. We have an online library, actually, and I'm getting onto it right now. But just in general, we do believe, in Revelation, it talks about the wild beast destroying Babylon the Great, which we view as that being false religion. And I don't know if you've ever heard that idea at all. And so at some point in the future, we believe, and what the Bible presents is that the nations will throw down religion and will get rid of it. So at that point, there's really not going to be a lot of religions left. And then in the end, it's going to be man's governments and everyone who sides with them against God and his kingdom. and obviously the winner would be Jehovah, and his son as king would obviously can have plenty of power to win that battle. And so, will just Jehovah's Witnesses be survivors? Potentially no, because there's areas where people haven't even heard of the Bible. There's people that live in forests that don't know what the Bible is. So if God's a God of love, would he destroy those people? The Bible doesn't comment on that specifically, but it does say that it says God is love. That's his main quality. And of course, justice. And if we wouldn't do that, we would give those people a chance so they would survive. And it's kind of like on an individual basis. You know, if there's people that didn't learn about the Bible, didn't know the truth, or in some way were misguided that way, and that's why it would be person by person that Jehovah can look at their hearts and they would be able to survive the end of the system. That's kind of some comments. Does that make sense?
Yeah, your comment is different than some of the quotes that we found. Like this one says that, I was just reading it here, it says, only Jehovah's Witnesses, those of the anointed remnant and the great crowd, have any scriptural hope of surviving the impending end of this doomed system dominated by Satan.
Yeah. And so
that's very different than what you said.
Yeah, and part of what, yeah, that's true. And that was one of our magazines or something?
Yeah,
Okay. So, that if a person is reading our magazine, and they have that ability to hear the truth, if a person does that and Jehovah's given them a chance, but they reject the truth, then this, as the system comes to an end, that line is going to be, it's going to get wider and wider between those who survive and those who don't. And people are getting, you'd probably agree, people are getting worse, morally, in every way, actually. And so, by the time the end comes, there will be a clear line of who's on Jehovah's side and who isn't. And so there's also a couple other things like to think about. I would like to find that quote, actually. Do you know what magazine that's in?
Yeah. It'll be Watchtower, September 1st, 1989, page 19.
Okay.
And then there's another one, too, in Kingdom Ministry. It says that identifying themselves with Jehovah's organization is essential to their salvation.
Yeah. And like for us, for me, it is, because I, like, all that stuff, like, when I'm reading that, it definitely applies to me, like, because I know the truth, and I know the Bible pretty well, and so I believe I need to stick close to this organization, because in my mind, I've proven that it's the true religion, and the Bible is true, and things like that. So there's a couple things about that. The KM is specifically targeted at Jehovah's Witnesses. I
know, but when it says identifying themselves with Jehovah's organization is essential to their salvation, it's talking about other people. It's not talking about you. You're already identified with it. It's talking about joining. Really, that's in the book, You Can Live Forever in Paradise on Earth, too, because you must identify with Jehovah's organization and loyally proclaim it. So you have to go, in the preaching as well to get eternal life in paradise on earth. So it's not an unusual, it's not an unusual statement. There's many statements like that in the literature, but it's. Is it that you guys don't want people to know that you believe that?
No, it's good that
so many seem
that.
reluctant to say that. Will Jehovah's Witnesses be the only ones to survive the end of the system, to survive Armageddon?
Well, do you mean like just from a teaching point, like what we believe?
Yeah.
Well, we believe that anybody that puts in the effort to serve Jehovah and give him glory and praise and to be obedient to him are the ones that will survive Armageddon. Now, all those things require certain steps. Of course, it's like being associated with His people, being a Bible reader, of course. Those are all things that He considers to be obedience.
Okay, so you're saying yes, only Jehovah's Witnesses will survive Armageddon. I mean, you're saying it in different words, but I'm just taking what you're saying as agreeing with that.
It's not necessarily, no.
Oh, because we had seen in the publications that it does seem to indicate that. Like, this is a quote like that someone found. For example, it says that only Jehovah's Witnesses, those of the anointed and the great crowd, have any hope of surviving the impending end of this doomed system dominated by Satan.
Well, there's also people who are not necessarily dedicated and baptized, Jehovah's Witnesses, but still are like a part of the congregation and put in the effort to be obedient to Jehovah.
Okay, so it might include some that aren't actually baptized, but it would only include people that are associated in some way, right? You're agreeing with that quote? But you would add other people too? I didn't know if they meant like people studying, because it says only Jehovah's Witnesses in this quote here.
Well, there's also people that are studying, and then you think about people that have never had a chance to get to know God.
Oh. Well, okay, so you don't agree with that quotation that only Jehovah's Witnesses will have any hope of surviving the end of this doomed system? Are you saying that you don't agree with that? It seems pretty like you're adding more things, and I'm just going by, I read that in the publication.
Well, I know that is most definitely true, but there's also people that want to know about God, may not necessarily have a chance or do associate with Jehovah's Witnesses.
Okay, well then what do their words mean, if anything, for this to say only Jehovah's Witnesses will survive? Well, why are they saying that then? It's different than what you are saying. Let's see the confusion. That's why there's confusion. So I'm trying to see what a witness would say about it. So do you agree with that, or is there an update on that, or what?
There just may be.
Oh.
But to be honest, I wouldn't even know for sure, especially not knowing this quotation.
Okay.
So I wouldn't know any of that for sure unless I was able to properly do the research.
Yeah. There's a lot of similar ones in the publications, but this particular one is September 1st, 1989, page 19. So, it seems like a major thing. I mean, isn't that a major idea that they are teaching? And what's the uncertainty? I mean, isn't that why you want everybody to become a Jehovah's Witness?
There's also definitely more information on jw.org that will probably answer those questions a lot more directly for you. I'm sorry, I do have to go because our meeting's about to start.
So
but if you did want any more answers, of course you can call back later.
So your answer is that no, not only Jehovah's Witnesses will survive. Your answer is no or yes?
I wouldn't even be able to give you a definite answer, honestly, without doing a little bit more research.
Okay. Well, hey, thanks for helping me. Okay. God bless.
All right. Bye-bye.
Is the teaching that only Jehovah's Witnesses will survive the near Armageddon?
We can't make that judgment as to who will and who will not. we're doing the best we can so that we can, but that's in Jehovah God's venue.
So you don't. Well, we did find a quote in, because we were looking in the archives of the literature and stuff. It says that here that only Jehovah's Witnesses, those of the anointed remnant and the great crowd, have any scriptural hope of surviving the impending end of this doomed system dominated by Satan, the devil.
How old is that publication?
October 1st, 1989, page 19.
All right, it's like really old.
Oh, so they did used to teach that? And that's not true?
We don't make blanket statements like that anymore.
Anymore.
It's the best thing to do is if you have questions, is to look on the website jw.org, or to have a study with someone. You'll get the more up-to-date information.
Do you have any quotations that all kinds of people could survive Armageddon, and that they changed that? Do you have any? Did they publish?
I wouldn't say. To tell you the truth, it's always been that we can't judge. We can't put ourselves in Jehovah's judgment seat.
No, but I was.
What we can say is that.
Well, obviously,
people,
that obviously hasn't been always what was taught, because I read this in the Watchtower. So it's fine if you have a different opinion. You know, I'm glad that you have a different opinion. But
we're keeping up to date with what the organization is encouraging us and teaching us, and we're also keeping up to date with what the scriptures say. The scriptures set out. Oh, but this phone is about to die.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So you don't have any references?
Are you still there?
Oh, yeah. So you don't have any references where they explained like why they changed that view, or anything like that? So I can. Hello?